Food, or more specifically crops, in Minecraft, and one of the most important aspects of... How did you escape, B? There is barrier blocks everywhere. How did you get out of there? I didn't leave no gaps. As I was saying, crop farms are probably one of the most important aspects of Minecraft, from early game through to late game, in terms of, well, just having food, decoration, and all sorts of other things you can do with food, like trading with villagers. In the last episode, I covered bone meal farms and all of the ways you can get bone meal from early to late game, which would be... Did you just do it as well? I give up. Yeah, which covers all of the different ways to get bone meal from early game to late game. And today we're going to do the same thing with crops. I'm going to cover meat and fish in a later video, but for now I'm going to smash my way through these barrier blocks, because apparently they do absolutely nothing at all, and head over here. So before we get stuck into how we're going to get our food, let's talk about some fundamentals of farming on Minecraft, or particularly Minecraft Bedrock Edition. So the first thing to note is planting crops in lines. It is a fact that if you plant crops in lines, they will actually grow faster. It's not just one of those urban myths, it is true story, and I have tested it, so you can believe me. And the best types of food for growing are not pumpkins and melons, contrary to popular belief. That's kind of an old thing left over from the previous types of villagers for trading for lots and lots of emeralds. Wheat, carrot, potatoes, and even beetroots are probably going to be your friend these days. So how do we create a field? Well, we need farmland, and the way you get farmland is by tilling dirt or grass with a hoe. But be careful, if you don't have water nearby, it will soon turn back to dirt and then back to grass. So you need some water in the middle. Then the water will spread 4 blocks in each direction, so you need 1 water source for a 9x9 area. And if you want to extend out from that, you're going to need another water source. Now, I have the random tick speed turned right up on this world just to demonstrate how quickly that happens. However, it is possible to actually plant crops on dirt which hasn't been waterlogged if you plant the seeds in quick enough. So let's do a test here. Let's turn the random tick speed to 0 just to demonstrate this. And if I till that bit there, it's never going to change because random tick speed is off. I'm going to put a carrot there and a potato there. And I'm going to now turn the random tick speed up to 20. And you will see that the farmland will not turn back to dirt, but the crops will grow an awful lot slower on there. In fact, I should probably turn that up a little bit more because that's very slow. 50. 100? Jeez, it's really slow. 1,000. There we go. The carrots have grown and the potatoes are taking a very, very long time, even on 1,000 tick speed, but they will grow eventually. This is handy if you want to just do decoration around your base. You don't need any water, but the crops will eventually grow, but it is quite a nice thing to be able to do. So planting them in lines is going to speed up the growing process. What else can we do to speed up the growing process? Well, we could get some bees, assuming they don't just go wandering off the edge for whatever reason. But bees, after they've been to a flower and got all pollinated, if they fly over your crop fields, they will actually bone meal some of the crops and help them grow faster. So having a bee farm around your crop farm is a good way of helping everything grow just a little bit quicker. So early game, you're probably going to be wanting some of this, but if you want to automate that process and you've got a little bit of bone meal, you could maybe get yourself a micro crop farm. And these are my 2 favorite types, this one being my absolute favorite, but this one, which I've got 2 versions of here, being a more standard one. This is exactly the same as that, except it doesn't have all of the chests and stuff in the way, so you can see it a bit clearer. And what it is a sticky piston with a redstone block on the back, making a clock with a couple of observers, 3 dispensers, and some tilled dirt, with a water source next to it so it never dries out. And it's a very simple thing to do. You just need to fill the dispensers with bone meal, as we have on this one here, and then get yourself some form of crop. Now, I have 1 carrot on me. Let's see how many carrots we can get from this thing in a very, very short space of time. So we'll turn the farm on like that. We're going to stand on this glass block here, and we're going to try very hard to aim at that. And you will see that the carrots will grow, and we will end up with more carrots. Now, they will go all over the place. You could probably put some hoppers around to make sure that they're getting caught, not just by your inventory, but you can just stand here, hold the click button down, or use an auto clicker until you've got yourself a whole bunch of carrots. There we go. We've already got over a stack, which is nice. However, like I said, that's not my favorite micro farm, although it's very common. This is my favorite, which might look a little bit more complicated, but it's actually a whole bunch simpler. There are no pistons, no observers, just a bit of redstone and a comparator. And again, we've got 3 dispensers with bone meal in. And we also have 1 dispenser with water in. And this one is good because it's faster. And what you do here, let's just get rid of all of our carrots except one, is you turn on the machine. You then come along here and you stand in this water. And again, you just click on the floor, try not to eat the... I don't want to eat it. I want to place it. There we go. Place the carrots. And you can just stand here all day long, just placing carrots. You're going to pick pretty much every single one up in your inventory. Some of them might decide they're going to try and get in one of those hoppers, but providing those hoppers are full of bone meal, that should be absolutely fine. And in no time at all, you will find yourself with many, many, many carrots or potatoes or bread. Well, wheat. You can use this for all of the different types of crops you can grow, including beetroot. It's nice and easy to build. Again, like I say, 4 dispensers, a comparator, a couple of repeaters, and a whole bunch of redstone dust. Easy. Again, I'm not going to do tutorials on all of these farms, but if you want to get up close and personal with them, you can go to my website and download this world for free. The link is in the description below. And while you're faffing about down there with links and all that sort of stuff, why don't you hit the like button and maybe subscribe as well for more FoxyNoTail content. Anyway, moving on. I should have done these in a different order, really, but a stage between your normal crop farm and your micro crop farm is probably a water flush farm. And these work relatively easily. You just have your farmland, you have some water around it so it doesn't dry out, and you've got a bunch of pistons at the back. And behind the pistons, there is some more water. And when you press this button here, the water will flush out. It will wash everything down into this channel below, and all of your crops, apart from those ones because they're stupid, will go into this chest here, along with a button, because I make messes when I build test worlds. Now, these are great because you don't just have to have one line of them like this. You can actually stagger them down and have rows and rows and rows of them and have your crop farms going an awfully long way, which means you can just come along, plant all of your crops, ideally in line so that they'll grow nice and quickly, and then, you know, just wait for them to grow, or even bone meal them, or put a couple of bees around to grow them faster. And then when they're ready, just hit that button. Now, on top of here, we've got a little circuit to make sure that the pistons stay open long enough for the water to flush everything down all of the way. That's very important. And all it is a button with some redstone on top going into a comparator delay clock, into a piston with a redstone torch on the back, which inverts the signal to make sure that the pistons are naturally down. And that's it. Very, very simple. And like I said, you can have this staggered down a long, long way and have your water washing all the way down, and then your chest at the very bottom collecting it all, which is rather fancy. So as I've said a couple of times already, how planting things in lines can help things grow quicker, but I should probably give you an example of that so that you can actually believe me rather than just having to believe me, which makes perfect sense. So over here, I have 2 farms. We have one with carrots and potatoes planted in lines and one with just carrots. And currently, the random tick speed of the game is on 0, so absolutely nothing is growing. However, if I put this up to, let's say, 500 for now, let's see which one grows faster. Oh, look, it's the one in lines have nearly already finished growing, while these ones are still hardly getting going. Yes, there you go. All finished on this side and still growing on that side. And you might think there wasn't really a great deal of difference in that FoxyNoTail, but that was at 500 times speed. So as I'm sure you can imagine, at normal speed, on a normal tick speed of 1, that's going to make quite a lot of difference. So yes, planting in lines is very important until it's not. Which brings us to our next farms, which of course are villager crop farms. As you can see in here, I have a couple of villagers, and they are on a crop farm, which is just carrots, because if I give them other things, they're going to get all sorts of confused. I could give them potatoes and put a few potatoes in here, and they could grow carrots and potatoes. But if I was to give them wheat, we might have a problem. And this villager is demonstrating perfectly how stupid he is. He's basically trying to throw all of the carrots that he's been collecting from the ground to this one, but these dastardly hopper minecarts are getting in his way, preventing him from giving this villager any food at all. Which means that this villager is going to be permanently hungry, requiring food, which means that this villager is going to be permanently trying to plant, or basically do the villaging, collecting the carrots and trying to feed them to him. And then, all we got underneath of these hopper minecarts, if I go outside, is some chests with many, many carrots in. And we will get more and more and more carrots because these villagers will never ever realize that what they're doing is totally stupid. However, the villagers can actually end up using the composters, which can be a little bit of a problem because, well, basically they take their carrots that they've been pulling out of the ground and then they end up composting some of them in there. But don't fret, they don't do it very often and they don't really put all that much in there, so it's not a big deal. If you really don't want them to do it, what you could do is you could get your composters and you could bring them outside and put them outside instead so that they can't get to them. But for me, there's plenty of carrots in here. I get plenty of carrots from this thing, and the bees again are helping to pollinate this area, making everything go nice and quickly, as I'll now demonstrate. So as the bees fly around, you might just notice from time to time that you will see some bone meal type particles above the crops. You should also see that this villager will go round and harvest any crops that are fully grown and try and throw them, and there you go. Did you see this line here? That just all got bone mealed by those bees as they flew over them. So bees are very, very useful at helping your crop farms be super speedy. Now, you might get to the point in your game where you think, I've had enough of villagers, I've had enough of planting crops, I can't be doing with this anymore. All I want to do is eat golden carrots forever. And I can tell you it is possible to eat golden carrots for the rest of your life without ever having to grow a single carrot, without ever having to use bone meal, and without ever having to deal with... Oh, okay, fine, it does involve villagers, but it's very OP and it's very useful. As we can see down here, I have 5 of the morons. And these guys have a bunch of composters, and that's all they need. So if I come to villager number 1 here and go in his inventory, you can see I've been trading with this guy, and at his master level, he'll trade glistering melons. Oh, geez. And so will this guy. And so will this guy. And so will this guy. But this guy is my best friend, because this guy will trade 3 emeralds for 3 golden carrots, which means that if you've got an emerald farm or a good supply of emeralds, you can eat golden carrots forever. And as everybody knows, golden carrots are absolutely 100% the best food in the game. Now, as you can see, I placed these villagers down completely at random, and we got 4 of them that do the glistering melon, which you wouldn't know unless you've got a cheaty pack on like I have that shows you the villager trades before you've unlocked them. So you could end up going through a lot of villagers in order to actually get one that gives you golden carrots straight off the bat, because the glistering melon is more common. But the good news is, with all of the crop farms that you've now got in place, because you've been watching this video and paying attention, you can now feed all of these villagers lots of potatoes and potentially melons and pumpkins, which I told you not to grow. Yeah, basically grow melons and pumpkins, okay? But this one, he'll take beetroot. Beetroot's so easy to grow. And this one takes potatoes. And this one will take wheat. All of the things I've taught you how to grow today. And if you enjoyed this video and found it useful, then make sure to let me know in the comments. And while you're down there fiddling about with the comments, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more FoxyNoTail videos. Thanks for watching, peeps. Goodbye.